Sometimes you're physically bound down, but mentally gone 10 years ahead. You dream of something you don't really want, and when you return, everyone has moved on. Follow tradition, you do this and that. Place a rock on.
Hello, and welcome back to my channel, guys. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Marina. I'm a lash tech based in Toronto, Canada, and I've been making lash extension videos for the past few years. I kind of stopped for a bit, but I'm back, and through the 5 years of me lashing, I wanted to see if I could help you guys in any way. The community on here is very sweet, very nice, so I'm going to continue to do my best to make these videos, even though it's late like this one. Today we are focusing on this Wispy volume lash set. If you watched my first video of 2024, you will see that there are different trending lash sets. No longer are we doing really fluffy sets. I don't see them very popular anymore. I think we're kind of leaving that dense look. Not saying that it doesn't exist, but I think that the more wispy and the more texture that lash sets have, the more popular they get, just because I personally like them as well. So, looking at this lash set, I'm going to share 5 tips with you guys. I think that these tips are some of the tips that I wish I knew from the beginning. They kind of help me with mapping. They also help me with speed. So enough talk, let's get into it, and let's get into tip number 1. So the first tip that I want to share with you guys is starting with the spikes. Now that means that we're also going to be just working with that top and middle layer. The reason I do this is mainly for speed. I find that like when I'm trying to create fans, it does consume a lot more time. With wispy sets, the main focus of a wispy set are the wisps, like point blank. Like without the wisps, they're not a set. So for me, doing the spikes first gives me a little bit of leeway. If the client has a lot of lashes, as you can see, this client has so many eyelashes, it takes a long time. And when I add the wisps first, the fans kind of play in nicely a little bit later, meaning that I don't have to like focus too heavily on completing 100% of the lower baseline if I can at least get like a lower dark lash line. Now, even though I say this, sorry for that pause, even though I say this, I do lash 100% of the eyelashes. That is just because I am an experienced lash tech. I've been doing this for several years now. So I find that my lash speed is up to par. If you are a beginner, this technique allows you to have some room if you cannot lash all of it or if you're running out of time. Now, regardless of time, whether you're doing 100% or let's say 90 or 85% of the lashes, this still helps me lash faster. So let's say you're watching this and you are an experienced lash tech. I just find starting with the spikes is just easier for me. This not only allows me to map out what I'm doing for every single length, but it also helps because you're applying lash spikes like you're applying classic lashes. And although classic lashes are a little bit easier because you don't have to really worry about that wraparound, it's still the same type of method. You're picking up, you're applying, you're picking up, you're applying. I just make sure that the base of the lash extension before I put it on the natural lash is open, so then it wraps around, thus giving high retention, and I can work very fast. If you find that your glue is drying slow, get a humidifier or use an accelerator. I typically like to use a humidifier rather than the accelerator. For me, it just works better and I find the retention a lot better. Tip number 2. Again, we are talking about spikes here. So all of my spikes, the diameters are 0.07. I have experimented with different diameters. I have done 0.03, 0.5, and 0.7. And 0.7 has been my favorite. This is because they are more darker. They tend to group together a little bit better, I would say. I think that when I use 0.07, the spikes just become a lot more dense, really giving that nice wispy look. I can say that 0.05 works as well. I just find that if you're doing a more lighter, elegant look, then I would suggest 0.05. But usually for something a little bit more bold, I do like 0.07. Even if it's actually a lighter, elegant look, I'll still use 0.07. It's completely up to you. I'd say try different diameters and see what you like. This is usually because with my sets, I really focus on the spikes, and for me, having those spikes really prominent is what my goal is. So 0.07, I find when you're grouping those spikes together, they really just show this, they kind of clump together like this really dark spike at the end. So if you're interested, you can see at the very end of this video, I have the results. You can take a look and you will see what I mean by the spikes grouping together and creating one large spike. So going on to tip number 3. For the base, I actually prefer to use 0.03 or 0.05. 0.05 I would only recommend doing if you are planning on doing 100% of the baseline. Or if you want the spikes to show through a little bit more with a lighter lash line. However, this specific client was going away on vacation, and she told me I want it to look like I'm wearing eyeliner, but I also want like the lashes to be long. So that's why my spikes are on the longer side, but I use 0.03 for the lash line to give that really dense look. Usually 0.03 is used for mega volume. So while using 0.03 for the fans of that base, I know that I'm going to get a really dark line, and that's really important for me. So 0.05 can still achieve that darkness. I just prefer 0.03 because it's a little bit more bold. If you are working with 0.03, another technique that you can use in order to help you lash faster is to make really wide fans to kind of focus on covering as much surface area as possible. You can get away with 75 to 85% of coverage for the bottom lash line, and it'll still look quite full without damaging them because 0.03 is such a light diameter. But I tend to do like medium-sized pickup for my 0.03 and then do 100% of the baseline, and therefore it'll get that real darkness. But again, wide fans can help you if you're a beginner. It'll still cover as much as you possibly can without running out of time if you have another client coming after. And then we have tip number 4, and this one is pertaining to curls. I recommend doing a curl that is less curly for the base and then more curly for the spikes. It just adds this really nice texture and prominence to the spikes. So for example, for this set, the entire base is C curl except for the outer corners are CC. But then that means for my spikes throughout the eye, it's all D, and then the outer corner is D, double D. And this is just because I think that when I used to use the same curls for the base and for the spikes, sometimes the spikes kind of get lost. I guess just because they're all the same curl, it doesn't pop through as much as when I use like different curls. So this was also trial and error, and also watching other people's methods and being on Instagram and YouTube and like watching other videos. So when I tried it, I really did notice a difference. So if you really want those spikes to be showing through, I recommend using this tip. This tip is also very important if you're doing like a strip lash look, because again, if you really want those spikes to be showing through, I would recommend using different curls. This is just me though. I think that this is very like specific to every artist. I think every artist has their different look. So for me, this is just what I like to do. And honestly, I think that it comes out looking really nice every single time. So try it out, see if you like it, but it doesn't mean that you cannot, like it's absolutely you cannot use the same curl. You can, and I have before, but this is just my little take and what I like to do. So hopefully that can help you. Okay, so for the last tip, number 5, is focus more on the spikes. And what I mean by this is I actually like to have more spikes than I do fans for that baseline. Sometimes, like obviously, you know, if there's like not too many layers. You're gonna have to be like picky and choose which like fans you're gonna put, how many fans you're gonna put, how many spikes you're gonna put. It's again up to you because we are artists, but for me, I focus on the spikes, especially if it's a wispy set, a wet set. The spikes are everything. So when a client, not like this one, she has a lot of eyelashes, but when a client doesn't have as many eyelashes, I tend to focus more on the spikes just because they're here for a wispy set, and then add as many fans I can for the bottom. And also going into it, you want to let them know that as well, just to tell them like, hey, like, I know that you know, you want like a really dark lash line, but everyone's eyes are different. The amount of eyelashes that people have are different, so it might not look like the picture that they're showing you. And that's all communication. It's part of the consultation process as well. So make sure you talk to your clients to see what they want. But I think anytime I hear wispy, anytime I hear wet, anytime I hear like textured, when clients say these kind of keywords to me, I always focus on the spikes and applying way more spikes than I do the base. This is just because this is like my own preference, like I said before. But you know, if you're wondering, wow, like my sets are coming out like too fluffy and only like a few spikes, and it looks a little weird, because this is how I started off. Like when I would do wispy sets, they looked more fluffy than they did spiky, and I just didn't understand why, and it was because I was doing that. So just keep that in mind. Again, when you can group the spikes together, it can turn into like one large spike, so that also adds to that texture that you might be looking for and trying to achieve. So those were 5 tips on how to achieve this wispy layered look. I hope it was helpful in some type of way. Please follow me on my Instagram and my TikTok. On Instagram, please shoot me a DM. I've had a few of you guys say that you found my YouTube and have, you know, asked me to give you some tips, or, you know, give me some advice on how to achieve this and what do you do for this and what products do you use, and I'm always down to answer. So yeah, just shoot me a DM, and if you follow me, most likely I will follow you back, especially if you shoot me a DM. But I'm here to support you guys because you have been supporting me, so thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and leave a comment if you have any questions, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys, I'll see you next week.
I know it's selfish, but the only thing I want, oxytocin, high on hoping that the way that you love me can fix how I hate myself. Overdosing on emotion, but when the chemical love wears off, I'm just as broken. You're my oxytocin. I saw you once, that's when you caught my eye. But I saw someone, it didn't feel right. I waited for you, thought I was sure. When you came around, I thought I wanted more. How many times do you wanna play around? How many times do I have to call you out? I kept on waiting for you patiently, when all you ever did was lie to me. I've wasted so much time on you, and you never feel the same way. I wish it could have been mine, but oh, in the end